Now, this is a subject that comes up quite a lot, and it tends to be a sore spot for a lot of people. So I've put together some really stupid random build. I've got Headhunter on, which is not going to take effect because 1, the target is immortal, 2, we're not going to kill the target, and we're also not hitting the head. I've got a Cheska backpack with Clutch on, so the only form of multiplicative damage we have is the 161% critical hit damage that you can see right here, plus 25 from Coyotes, plus 200 from Backfire. That is a grand total of 386% critical hit damage. Now we can show this in a calculation. So here we are, here's my calculation. You see I've got no total weapon damage, all I've got is 3.86 in critical hit damage, which means our body crit should hit 529,269. If there were diminishing returns, we won't be getting all of that critical hit damage, in which case what we would see would be less. So this is going to take a minute because we've got to build up to 200 stacks. But the easiest way to show this is actually with using Backfire, because a lot of people seem to think that the higher you go in a certain stat, the more diminished return you get, which is simply not true. So we're just going to wait for 200 stacks. It shouldn't take too long. Right, there we are. We are at 200 stacks. What are we hitting? 529,269. And even if we do headshots, it's still correct. 616,391. So in terms of crit as well as now headshot, we're literally getting 0 in diminished returns. This does beg the question, because a lot of people will go, oh, you're getting diminished returns on X, Y, Z. What is a diminished return? Now for this, we're going to look to another game, The Elden Ring, which demonstrates this perfectly. Now here we have a table of the health value you get at each point that you put into your character in Elden Ring. At level 1 you have 300 health. At level 2, if you put a point into health, you will get plus 4. At level 3, plus 8. This trend of the amount you're getting per point comes under what is called the law of increasing returns. This will continue all the way to level 40, where finally at level 40, if you put 1 point into health, you will get plus 48 health. It is from here that when you put a point in at level 41, you get 26 health. So where 1 point used to equal 4 and it increased to 48, it is now dropping to 26. So if you now take it at face value of 1 point equals 48 health, you then put 1 point in and you get 26, that is a diminished return. In effect, in terms of games like Division, this would mean you put 10% into critical hit damage, but when you calculate your damage, just from your crit alone, you would get less than 10. This can be convoluted due to all the other multipliers, etc., that you put in. For example, this is an equation for 2 separate builds. One of them is slightly cut off at the bottom, but the actual equation is still there. The larger part of with all the numbers at the bottom is the difference in them. The builds are the exact same, except one has 164% critical hit damage, the other has 154. Despite this difference, you will notice that the body shots are the exact same, as well as the headshot is the exact same. The difference is in the crit, where one will hit 514, 518, the other will hit 495029. This is a difference of 3.94%, and then on headshot, the difference is 2.82. So despite the fact that we have dropped 10% in critical hit damage, the difference in our overall damage is actually quite negligible. This is not a diminishing return. This is a diminished return in scale, simply just because there are other things going on that multiply or add to the overall effect. Now this is actually quite easy to demonstrate if we just put on a build that utilizes other multipliers. The original build I was using with Backfire here was just pure critical hit damage, which we showed, because it wasn't calculated in, that you are not getting a diminished return on your critical hit damage. However, the moment we add more multipliers in, we are basically starting off, despite having lower critical hit damage, we are basically starting off at the point of where the first build ended, which then allows us to go to an even higher point. Point and case of this, as an example, is this here, which is the exact build I'm using in the background footage. As you can see, it is 100% accurate. I am hitting the body crit of 994,969. The difference here is, though, we have actually lost 20% critical hit damage, but we've got 8% in detox and 0.3 in perfect glass cannon unique multiplier. Another good example of this is Forge with skill tiers on your shield. For this I'm just using the Crusader shield, and the background footage is me just checking the numbers to make sure they're all correct. I do it first without Forge, and then I swap characters to do it again with Forge, as I only have one Forge and it's all a different character. But skill tier 0 we got 1.3 million health, 1.9 with Forge, skill tier 1 1.8 and then 2.5, skill tier 2 2.2, 2.8, skill tier 3 2.6, 3.3, skill tier 4 3.3, 3.9, skill tier 5 3.9, 4.6, and then skill tier 6 we have 4.6 and 5.3. The difference between these, and it's very easy to see on skill tier 0, is 50%. You basically ignore the 100. So at skill tier 0, Forge is doing exactly what it says on the tin. Easy for all to understand. That is literally a 50% increase. Forge gives 50% shield health. However, at skill tier 1, we're only getting a 35.7% increase. Skill tier 2, 30, skill tier 3, 25, skill tier 4, 20, skill tier 5, 16, skill tier 6, 14. To a lot of people looking at this, they're going to go diminishing returns. This again is not true. It's just understanding where it's being applied, how it's being applied, and why. So if we look at this one, at skill tier 0 we have no multiplier. Our base value of our shield is 1,327,245. Forge will add 50% of this, simply meaning that Forge will add 663,623 health. Skill tier 1 has a 1.4 multiplier. If we take our base value of 1.3 mil, times that by 1.4, we get 1.8. As previously mentioned, skill tier 1, our shield, is that exact number. If we then add in, actually just add 663,623, we get our skill tier 1 value with Forge. Same again with skill tier 2, skill tier 3, skill tier 4, skill tier 5, and finally skill tier 6. Just to show the numbers from earlier, you will notice that they are all the exact same. You can do this for yourself. At no point are you getting a diminished return from Forge. It is doing exactly what it says it will do. It will give you plus 50% shield health from base. It is an additive stat, whereas skill tier is multiplicative. If it's additive, it will work from its base value. This is not a diminished return, this is diminished return in scale, simply meaning the scale has gone up. You're still getting the exact same from Forge, but the scale has gone up. If it was a diminished return, you would be getting less from Forge at each turn. You're not. You're still getting 663,623 health throughout each interaction. That is not a diminished return. To put this in a more simple term, out of the thousands of things that I have tested over the past year and a bit, and then further when meeting Hutchler and a variety of other people, I am yet to come across a single interaction, repair skill, incoming repairs, skill haste, skill damage, none of it has diminished returns. Not a single thing. It is simply just a misunderstanding of what is interacting where and how. Now for my final point, because I know this is just going to get a lot of shit because everyone's, oh, diminished returns exist. They simply, okay, yes, in the real world and in other games, yes, but in Division, diminished returns do not exist. That is 0% weapon stability. Because I've seen a lot of people lately, I know exactly where it's come from, arguing that weapon handling stats, including stability, etc., has diminished returns. Then I would like you to explain this. Okay, all you need is a level 0 watch. Okay, for me, I've got to do a WONI, so I've run a WONI for this just to prove a point. Right, there's my stability. I've got 0 weapon stability. You can see the reticule wobble. It stabilizes slightly and then it goes for another wobble. This is what 0 weapon stability looks like on this particular weapon. Okay, we can do this all day. Glory Days, 100% weapon stability. Just for the fun of it, I'm going to try my best to line it up on that little red dot in the target. And we're just going to stand here. I'm not touching my mouse. I am doing nothing. 100% weapon stability completely cancels out the shake. There is no such thing as diminished returns in Division. We're just going to stare at this for a bit. If there was diminishing returns on weapon handling, then 100% stability wouldn't be 100%. It would not cancel out the stability. The only way in which I can now get that reticle to move is firing the bloody weapon. And even then, it doesn't actually really move that much. This is a very simple test that anyone can do. It does not exist. It's just a lack of understanding by the fault of no one. The game is not very well defined, explained, and people like me are hidden under a pile of crap. But yeah, if you think you're getting diminishing returns from something, you're not. It's just not applying in the way in which you think it is being applied, or the multipliers are not lining up correctly. It's not a diminished return. It is just simply a fact of return in scale. 10% will always be 10%, but when you start adding other things into it, it's not represented in a clear and cohesive manner. As you can see on this build, this wonderful, wonderful build, I had no weapon handling. So all of it, all 100% comes from Glory Days. Anyway, that will just about do it for this lovely video. Have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.